Translator, Salavin and Rykov. Translation checker, Pew Pew Laser Gun. Editor and proofreader, Leo of Zion Mountain and Dale Ligerkeys. For this sir to act so ruthlessly, may I know what my endless treasures pavilion has done to offend you? The head shopkeeper's eyes were dark, and he shouted through gritted teeth in fear of Yankai's mercilessness. This young man killed 4 Dowsource realm cultivators and wasted the cultivation of the burly bald-headed man as soon as he arrived. With how cruel and decisive his actions were, the head shopkeeper knew they couldn't settle things nicely, but even though Yankai was strong, he wasn't very afraid of him. As the saying goes, even the mighty dragon cannot suppress the native serpent. Every single person in Marsh City had to give face to their endless treasures pavilion. You have not offended me, but you have offended my junior sister. Yankai looked coldly at the head shopkeeper and the corners of his lips rose up, continuing, don't tell me you know nothing about this. Hand over what you stole or you'll end up the same as him. While speaking, Yankai pointed a finger at the burly bald-headed man. The head shopkeeper's face changed. He originally thought that he could delay Yankai until reinforcements arrived. Once they did, Yankai would be forced to pay for what he had done to the Endless Treasures Pavilion 100 times over. Only, he didn't expect that Yankai wouldn't even give him that opportunity. From his words, Yankai clearly wasn't going to give him any breathing time at all. Does sir know what place our Endless Treasures Pavilion is, and who stands behind it? You dare shout like that here? The head shopkeeper had lived for so many years and had a peak Dowsource realm cultivation himself, so he couldn't be intimidated by a few words from Yankai. I see you've made your choice. In that case, please don't blame this young master for being ruthless. Yankai coldly snorted. It was clear what this old man was trying to do, but Yankai wasn't afraid in the slightest. That was why he didn't bother talking nonsense with him. After he spoke, Yankai's body teleported right in front of the old man using space principles. Suddenly, in a circle spanning several tens of meters, the space turned solid. The head shopkeeper was mortified, and dense sweat droplets formed on his forehead. Even with his strength and his vision, he was unable to see how Yankai suddenly appeared in front of him. He realized now that he had truly kicked an iron plate. Feeling the condensed space around him, he pushed his source chi wildly and with a horrified look shouted, Endless Treasures Pavilion is the private property of Sir City Lord. Since you dare to be unruly here, then don't even think about leaving Marsh City alive. When it came to this, he didn't have the leisure to posture anymore. He tossed out his backer's name directly, hoping that Yankai could exercise caution lest innocents be hurt. After all, the city lord in Marsh City was a powerful man, and also the only Emperor Realm Master here. But unexpectedly, Yankai wasn't moved at all. He couldn't see a single fluctuation of emotions in his eyes as if he had already expected it. This little brat is mad. The old man was horrified. He still dared to act so wantonly even after knowing that the city lord was behind him. Didn't that mean that he wasn't afraid of Sir City Lord? What a joke that he tried to use the city lord's name to pressure the boy but it backfired on him instead. The space around him was so condensed now that the old man could not move an inch. It felt like his meridians were blocked and the flow of his source chi was interrupted. In haste, he had no choice but to bite the tip of his tongue and spit out a mouthful of blood essence, summoning a huge pair of golden blades to cut in Yankai's direction. The golden blades were of a considerable grade and emitted the aura of a Dowsource grade high-rank artifact. There was also a mysterious force behind this strike that cut a rift through the frozen space. The old man was finally relieved of the pressure and his source chi began flowing smoothly in his meridians again. But before he could do anything, a faint golden light had already spread out before his eyes. He subconsciously looked up at Yankai, only to see that the latter's left eye was shining gold. What's more, the pupil of that left eye had also become an awe-inspiring vertical slit. An intimidating power was fluctuating inside it, and just looking at this eye caused the old man to feel panicked. In the next moment, a lotus flower bud that was about to bloom suddenly shot out from the golden slit, the light growing brighter. The old man froze in place as if he had been struck by lightning. His vision was filled with nothing but the lotus bud, as if it was the only thing left in this world. Under his gaze, the pure white lotus quickly bloomed. As the lotus flower blossomed, the old man felt his spiritual energy rapidly being drained, and pain filled his head, like 10,000 ants were gnawing at his soul. Not good. This is a soul secret technique. The old man came back to his senses with a start, but there was nothing he could do. The young man's spiritual energy seemed to be much stronger than his own, and this inexplicable lotus secret technique had already devoured a massive amount of his spiritual energy in just a short amount of time, causing his whole body to weaken as a horrified look appeared on the old man's face. A sharp pain washed over him, the stimulation quickly jerking the old man awake. Looking over, he saw that his arm had been chopped straight off. Blood was spurting out from the wound and pouring out onto the ground. The face of the young man turned serious. Lightly reaching out his palm, he pressed it against the old man's chest. Thinking back to what he saw happen to the burly bald-headed man when he was observing them in the shadows previously, combined with Yang Kai's words, how could the old man not know what Yang Kai intended to do? He was really going to waste his cultivation. The old man shivered fiercely as he shouted with all his might, "No. We can talk things through. This old master can grant you anything you want." Peng. Yang Kai's palm still pressed down, seemingly pushing the old man's chest down a finger's length, causing him to spit out blood and fly backwards towards the counter miserably. The old man landed heavily on the ground, and like the burly bald-headed man, Yang Kai's strike had crushed his danshan, broken his meridians, and wasted his cultivation. "You didn't cherish the opportunity when I was willing to talk, so there's no need for you to talk anymore." Yang Kai didn't even look at the old man and just reached out to grab the space ring from his severed arm, tossing it to Lu Xianyun. "See if what you're looking for is in the ring." Lu Xianyun caught it subconsciously, but she clearly hadn't recovered from the shock yet. She looked bewildered at Yang Kai and could not understand how he could actually become so powerful after they parted for just a few years. The 4 First-Order Dao Source Realm cultivators being instantly killed by him was one thing, but the burly bald-headed man and the head shopkeeper were not your usual Dao Source Realm masters. But these two were just like mere children in front of Yang Kai, having no power to fight back while they were being pummeled. Their cultivations were practically wasted in just one move from Yang Kai. Thinking back to when the two of them were forced into joining the Blue Feather sect and only surviving under Bian King's wing, Lu Xianyun simply couldn't believe the man before her was the same person. "Senior brother, have you broken through to the Emperor realm?" Lu Xianyun asked in a dumbfounded voice. "Not yet." Yang Kai smiled. Lu Xianyun was even more shocked now. That he could be so vicious before even reaching the Emperor realm, then what would he be like once he broke through? She could still be considered a powerhouse in the Grand Desolation starfield and a genius rarely seen once every 1,000 years, but compared to Yang Kai now, she felt that her own cultivation aptitude was simply poor. "So, is it there?" Yang Kai asked again. Only then did Lu Xianyun scramble to look through the space ring. After a short while, she took out a jade box from the space ring and smiled, "It's still here." The jade box was where she put the spirit flower before this, and the seal she had personally put over the box had not been removed yet. From the looks of it, the head shopkeeper hadn't had the opportunity to open it yet after stealing it. "You should keep the ring, too. Take it as the head shopkeeper's compensation to you." Yang Kai sneered, "I'm sure the head shopkeeper isn't a stingy man, after all." When the head shopkeeper, whose aura had withered at the counter, heard this, he almost choked on his breath and fell dead on the spot. There were plenty of good things in his ring. The Endless Treasures Pavilion was able to acquire some precious treasure, even some that they were planning to sell soon, as well as items not suitable to lay out in the open. It was not too much to say that his space ring was worth quite a lot of money. Right now, Yang Kai robbed him of his ring with just one sentence. The head shopkeeper could almost feel his heart bleeding, but with his current condition, he didn't have the strength to resist even if he wanted to. "Is this really okay?" Lu Xianyun had never done this sort of thing before and could not accept it for some time. It felt like her own morals and bottom line were being challenged. "There's nothing wrong about it," Yang Kai coldly snorted. "There's no telling how much of the stuff in that ring was taken by force. If they can rob others, why can't they be robbed as well?" Then, all right, Lu Xianyun happily put away the space ring without any more psychological pressure. It did make sense to her. If she had not bumped into Yang Kai today, she would have been robbed. That alone was enough, but she was even beaten by them. This group of people from Endless Treasures Pavilion bullied the weak in Marsh City and had definitely done a lot of nefarious deeds over the years. There was really no reason to feel pressured robbing this kind of scum. She could just take it as righting a wrong under heaven's decree. "Little brat, you have guts, but you're definitely not destined to live through tomorrow. The city lord will not let you go." Currently, the head shopkeeper's cultivation was completely ruined, so there was nothing for him to be afraid of anymore. Looking at Yang Kai in hatred, he spat out a mouthful of blood and sneered, "When that time comes, this old master will eat your flesh bite by bite." Hearing this, Lu Xianyun's face changed, her voice trembling as she said, "Senior brother, let's get out of here quickly or it'll be too late. Marsh City's city lord is an Emperor Realm master. He's not someone we can mess with." But Yang Kai just glanced contemptuously at the old man. That Pang Guang won't come and provoke me. If he dares to come, this young master doesn't mind seeing him off into the next world as well. The old man was stunned. Pang Guang was the city lord of Marsh City that he spoke of, and also the only Emperor Realm cultivator in the city. He thought that Yang Kai would definitely be afraid of him, but from his tone, it seemed he didn't put the city lord in his eyes at all. Where on earth does this little brat come from? How dare he boast so shamelessly? In his mind, the old man felt that no one would be able to avenge him. In other words, he was humiliated and had his cultivation wasted for nothing. In the future, the only thing he could do was drag out a feeble existence. He might as well be dead. Under the stimulation, the old man spat out another mouthful of blood and his aura dropped even further. Let's go. Yang Kai turned around and smiled at Lu Xianyun, taking the lead in walking out. After opening the door, he found that cultivators were standing on both sides of the street and even on the rooftops, all of them looking towards the Endless Treasures Pavilion.